Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. If you're not already familiar with this podcast, my name is Steve Smith and I'm your host, and I welcome you back to another episode of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. You're going to really enjoy this one. We're travelling to the nation's capital in the ACT, Canberra. This is episode number 92. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Keeper of the Greens is proudly brought to you by John Deere Golf. Fantastic people at John Deere Golf. And I'm so proud to be able to partner with John Deere Golf. I wanted to make sure that I'm working with somebody who supports the industry, someone who cares about the industry. And in all the times that I've spoken with John Deere Golf leading up to this partnership, that's what I got. That's one of the key things I got out of them is their support of our industry. If you want to be better, if you want to present a better golf course, if you want to get support in what you do every day as greenkeepers, as turf managers, as superintendents, John Deere Golf are the people that you need to be talking to make sure that you can see what they've got to help you do better at what you do. So part of this is making sure that I partner with someone who cares, that wants to support our industry, and that's John Deere Golf. And look, as we know, the game of golf relies on your team's passion and professionalism, which is why you can trust John Deere Golf for a wide range of advanced equipment and dedicated support. They've been around in golf since 1987. John Deere Golf has built a tradition on trust and excellence on golf courses all over the world. And that's the other great part about John Deere Golf is that they're global. They have so much that they can draw on to help support you, which is fantastic in the background. It's the all their experience and all their knowledge and all their gains over all those years that they can support you in what you do, looking after the turf at your site. That's what's so good about having them being there behind you and helping you in what you do. So make sure you reach out to these guys. Make sure you reach out to your local John Deere reps that you can talk to them and find out how, like I said, find out how to be able to do your job better and ask those questions. You can find your nearest John Deere dealer today at deere.com.au. That's DEERE.com.au. And like I said, they're supporting me. They are there to support you as well. So lean on them, guys and girls. Make sure you get out there and get in touch with your John Deere reps. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. This is John Deere Golf, Keeper of the Greens, and I've had a road trip today. I'm on my way. I've been on my way down, and I've arrived to the nation's capital in Canberra, and I've come to the one and only. It's the one and only. Everyone knows this place. They've heard about it. They may not have been here, but it is the Royal Canberra Golf Club here in Canberra, and I have with me on the other side at the microphone is Superintendent Ryan Stores. Welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, Keeper of the Greens, mate. How are you?
Well, thank you, mate. Yeah, welcome.
Mate, thank you very much for the welcome, and thank you for agreeing to be on this one. This is pretty special. John Deere Golf have got me travelling around, so this is fantastic. We're doing some great stuff, mate. So we're going to have a little bit of fun here today. This will be good.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Have you done this before?
Never, no.
Everyone nearly says that, so that's okay. We'll see how we go. We'll start off with, mate, we've already been talking before we get into this about some of the history stuff here and the lay of the landscape. We've got a lot to talk about here. I want to be able to educate not only myself, but obviously the audience. It's going to be a lot of fun, mate. So I think you're going to be passing on lots of info here.
Yeah, look forward to telling the story, and hopefully we can get the word out about Royal Canberra and where we're going.
Absolutely, mate. And we're also going to talk about your career, which is going to be interesting as much as anything else. So let's start off. We start off with Steve Super 7. Quick fire 7 questions, mate. I don't know if you've listened to any podcast before. So if you haven't, or you have you?
I have, yeah. Okay, I am familiar.
You got an idea? Okay, yep. All right. Let's just get stuck into it. Number 1, sunrise or sunset?
Got to be sunrise for me, yeah.
Sunrise, okay. Cam, did you guys get some good stuff down here, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Generally, I like to think, like, if it's sunset, I'm here too long, so...
There's a good alarm clock. It's time to go home, tapping out. Number 2, dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course? Now, this isn't necessarily a reflection on where you work. It's a personal thing. So, mate, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely dogs. I've had my dog out here a lot of times, mate. I think they're great out on the golf course, good for getting rid of ducks.
Nice.
Yeah, big fan.
Get rid of duck. And you've got you've certainly got some duck populations around here, I'm sure.
Yeah, big time.
Number 3, stripes or no stripes on fairways. Now, I think this one will be interesting for people, what their thoughts are.
Yeah, so my personal preference is absolutely no stripes. So I can't stand them.
Okay.
Cannot stand them.
Okay, and it's not something that we do here, obviously, either.
No.
There we go. No stripes. No stripes. Very good. Number 4, green-coloured sand or natural-coloured sand to repair divots. What does a Royal do?
Interesting one. We've recently started with the green sand, probably about a year ago.
Okay.
Once we put the Santarana down on the front 9 fairways, we started divoting with the green sand. I'm impartial to it. I don't really have a preference, but it's something that was sort of membership club driven. So we've gone down that road.
And has it been well received? You've been doing it for a year?
Yeah. I think it just sort of hides a lot of the divots in the winter period. We've got no recovery and that sort of thing because we go fully dormant here.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's more just a bit of a masking thing, but you can still see it.
Yeah. Sure. Exactly. It's not 100% foolproof, is it? Really?
No.
Okay, cool, interesting. Number 5, your favourite grass variety. Now, for the turfies and even anyone interested in it, this is always interesting. I'm curious down here, mate. What do you like?
I can't go past the Santarana Cooch, mate. It's a winner.
Nice. Very good. Number 6, preferred style of golf course. There's 3 to pick from: Cape Wickham, Kingston Heath, or Elliston. And I do apologise, Royal Canberra's not on there, but that's okay.
Difficult one there. I would probably say Kingston Heath would be my preference, but probably not my favourite style of golf course, or either or all 3 of those.
That's it. Well, okay. Look, seeing as I'm down here, mate, and we're in your shed, we're doing this. I want you to tell me what is yours then. Now, this one's aside. This is 6A.
Yeah, we've gone rogue already. My sort of favourite style of golf and golf courses are probably a little bit quirky. Tobacco Road in North Carolina is my favourite golf course on the planet. Got the chance to play there last year.
No way.
Yeah, I did. That's sort of my style. I like to not take golf too seriously, have a good time with mates, have a few beers, bit of music going.
And that's a pretty wild track too, right?
Yeah, that's why I like it. It's unconventional. It's fun. You get out there and have a really good time. Mate.
I reckon that's on people's bucket list well and truly.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, unreal. Good stuff. That's okay. That's a good answer. 6A. I might put that in and see if anyone circles that one around. 6A is Ryan's selection. Number 7, the final one, mate. If you could walk around but not play, just to walk around and take it all in, any golf course in Australia tomorrow, which one would it be for you?
Yeah, another good question. Right now, it'd probably be Royal Sydney. I'd like to go and have a bit of a look around and see Gil Hans's work up there.
Yep.
Catch up with Adam and the boys up there, see how they're going with that all. I think it's going to really, really come forward in the Australian golf market. I think it's something that it's really going to put a few other places on notice.
Oh, mate, I've been saying it for a long time. I think what's happening up there, I still, my brain hasn't quite comprehended that the club were able to get it through, because I honestly, I say it publicly, I wasn't sure that they would actually be able to get it through. I think it's going to change the game for Sydney golf. And I think what Gil Hans's first one in Australia, I think Royal Sydney, it's going to completely blow up everything we know in Sydney and New South Wales about golf, and I think it's going to really change the game.
I completely agree. Just the photos I've seen, mate, it looks sensational. So, looking forward to seeing that one.
Fantastic, mate. Well, that was a great Steve Super 7. Always a bit of fun. So I appreciate your answers, and everyone will compare that with themselves. So thank you, mate. That was really good answers. Now, mate, we get to the thick of it. This is what this is all about. This is why we come down here. And we want to talk about, we're going to get into Royal Canberra. We're going to get into what's going on here. And you've got quite a lot on your plate, as you've been describing. You've managed to squeeze me in, mate. So I do say thank you.
No, all good, mate. All good.
Because there is some pretty significant stuff happening here, which we'll get into and sink our teeth into. But, mate, as I always like to do, we'll start about you and your career getting to Royal Canberra. Mate, can you take us back to the days of the beginnings for you? How did turf grass maintenance seep into your brain and something that you really became passionate? Here we are at Royal Canberra. This is pretty special, and here you are leading the team here. I mean, there was a point where it began. So can you open us up to how it all started for Ryan, and where's your background, mate? Are you from here? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting story. So I'm not from here originally. Okay. I'm from Cooma in the Snowy Mountains.
Oh, okay. So cool climate. So
it's
the region.
Yeah, about an hour and 20 from here.
Yep. That's not a big town. It's a small
town,
country
small country town.
Right.
And so, I guess I was working as a farmhand, doing a bit of rouseabouting, and ended up doing a bit of weed spraying and things like that. And I thought, this might be the go. And one day I was watching the Boxing Day test of all things, and I was watching the MCG, and I thought, geez, that looks all right. How do they do that? And anyway, that summer I started looking for jobs. I actually applied at the SCG. I applied for apprenticeship here in Canberra at Yawani. And a couple other ones, but ended up getting the apprenticeship at Yawani, which is just down the road from here.
Yeah,
so it's not too far away.
Yep.
So started the apprenticeship there in early 2010, I think it was.
Okay, wow.
Did my 4 years at Yawani, and then
right.
it was early on in the piece that one of the guys had just come back from the Ohio program.
Okay,
and it was pretty quick to me to say, that's my go. That's where I'm heading over.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So
wow.
Did my time at Yawani, and then in 15, the start of 15, I went to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh wow! Straight away, going over.
Finished the apprenticeship, and
that's it. I'm going.
It was pretty much on the day I was on the plane. I was out there, mate. So I ended up at Quail Hollow in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Get out.
Yeah.
What was okay? So that was pretty quick into the big time, mate. I got to ask, like, you've gone from being a rouseabout to Yawani, and then you're 4 years up and you're straight Quail Hollow. I mean, that's a pretty big step.
Yeah, it was. It was just interesting. So one of the guys that came back, he just finished up at Sawgrass, and he was showing me all these photos, and I hadn't travelled, never been overseas, really hadn't gone anywhere really, like outside of the country, and I thought, geez, what a good opportunity. So he talked me into it in about 5 seconds, and I had the paperwork pretty much that week, and I contacted Mike O'Keefe, and away we went from there, mate.
Wow. So how was that? What was the thought like, family-wise? Your family was still in Cooma? Were you living in Canberra on your own type thing?
I was up here with my old man and my stepmom for a period through the apprenticeship period, and then, I was a 22-year-old kid on the plane, and off we went, mate. Yeah, I was into Charlotte, North Carolina, didn't know a single soul.
Well, what was that like when you landed then?
Yeah, pretty wild. It's actually a bit of a funny story to it. The day I landed, I got into Charlotte after having a bit of time at Ohio State at the university there, and I got picked up at the airport, and I got driven straight to the golf course. Had all my bags and everything, and I was put to work. I was snipping bunkers that afternoon.
Hadn't even checked your bags in where you were staying properly.
Yeah, had no idea where I was going to live. They helped me out with housing and all that sort of thing, but had no idea where I was living, how I was getting there, or anything like that. They put me straight to work. I was sort of in my good gear and getting covered in grass that afternoon.
That's fantastic. So, okay, I've got to ask, what was that workplace step like from working at Yawani? You've done your time. I suppose I'll be frank. I don't think I'm being rude at the same time, but I'll be frank and say you haven't seen a lot of golf.
No.
Right? You haven't seen much outside Canberra, let alone Yawani, in terms of greenkeeping, your experience, your background. Were you a golfer then?
No, I'd played a bit of golf and got into golf probably 13, 14.
Okay.
But Tiger Woods was massive for me. I watched a lot of golf. I'm never any good.
Okay.
Watched a lot of golf and had a bit of a fascination with Tiger and those early 2000s, late 2000s where he was on that run. Yeah. That was pretty pivotal, and I thought, well, these guys are doing it. Let's go and have a look. And then ended up over there. But to answer your question, no, it was I drove in that driveway and I've gone, holy, what have I got myself into here? So we had, I think we had 5 or 6 guys on staff at Yawani, and I went straight into a 50-person team.
Wow.
Yeah. That
big.
Yeah, and then I arrived in March, and we had the Wells Fargo in May, so I was straight into it.
Wow. I don't even know where to go from it. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone taking such a big step from the bush. The fact that your background started at Cooma, it's just got me stumped. How quick you've gone to Quail Hollow. Tell me, what did you take away from? How long were you over there for, and what did you take away from the Ohio program? And did you do other stuff over there, or did you come back? What did you do?
Yeah. So first, I've been back a couple of times. We'll probably get into it.
Yeah. Okay.
The first time I was there for about 14 months. So just over a year.
Right.
And what did I take away? Yeah, so I did 6 professional tournaments while I was there throughout my time.
Right.
The first time. And then,
wow.
So I finished up there in early 16 and ended up at the Australian Golf Club in Sydney with the great man Phil Beale.
You've kind of missed some steps in your career here that I would have thought most people would have had to take along the way. That shows a lot about your commitment and what you take away, what you see, how your work ethic is. I tell you, no, I'm going to be honest, mate. No one just goes from there to there to there by just bumming around and just fobbing their way through, right? So that's a testament to the way you picked up your career and you've run with it, and you're taking stuff away. So you come back to the Australian.
Yep. Yeah, so
wow.
I guess, just to sort of touch on it, I was always pretty driven.
Yep.
Really wanted to be a superintendent from early days.
Yep.
I knew that hard work had there's the only way to get there. So I thought, what better place? And ended up there with Phil and
Unreal.
guys up there. So
So what role did you pick up there? What did you
I
walk
was
in
just a greenkeeper.
Okay.
Yeah, just a greenkeeper,
Yep.
and it was a relatively short stint. I think I was about 9 months there. So I did a bit of time with Phil and the guys there, and there was an opening here at Royal Canberra after that.
Right.
So I ended up ringing Benny Grilovich, who was a super here at the time, and
Yep.
we got chatting. He brought me on as a greenkeeper mid 2016.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
mid 2016, something like that. And then I sort of landed here in Canberra after a bit of a time away, and thought, this is pretty good. And I think I was probably 3 months in here. As I was just a greenkeeper on the crew, and
Yep.
got the phone call from the previous superintendent over in the States, Keith. And he said, we're gearing up for a course rebuild and preparation for 2017 PGA Championship. Do you want to come back? And I said, of course.
And that course is Quail Hollow again?
Yeah, back to
Quail Hollow?
Back to Quail Hollow, yep.
Wow.
So, picked up my...
So the Supers called you direct?
Yeah.
And said, hey, man,
Yeah.
we're doing this. We'd like you to come back.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So, we a bit of back and forthing and organising immigration and all that sort of thing. So they ended up sponsoring me from here, from Royal Canberra. So
That is unreal.
yeah, so that was ended up being sort of late 2016, and I sort of landed as construction was red hot. We were resurfacing greens, rebuilt all the bunkers, resurfaced tees, built 2 brand new golf holes after we redesigned the golf course,
Yep.
a corner of it. But yeah, we got straight into it pretty much from day one.
So how long was that build for? And tell us a little bit about, because for one, I don't know a lot about American courses in terms of their grass type. So what sort of things were going in over there with grass?
So all the greens were TIFF Grand.
Okay.
So Ultra Dwarf Bermuda.
Okay.
They changed them from Mini Verde. They were originally Mini Verde into Champion, and then they've just changed them again to something else.
So is that warm season?
All cooch grass.
So it's cooch greens.
Yeah.
So where is Quail Hollow, man?
Charlotte, North Carolina. So like in the southeastern pocket.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, so-
I'm absolutely NFI when it comes to America, so forgive me for asking those questions. Okay, so it's warm part of the world.
Yeah, very hot.
And cooch greens. Okay, that's cool.
Cooch greens, and then for all the tournaments outside of the President's Cup, everything was oversown yearly, including greens.
Oh, wow. Including greens?
Yeah,
What do you oversow greens?
Triv on the greens.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. That's cool. So you've learned a lot of stuff in your short time. How long was that build stint that you were there for?
So we did all that construction work in about 120 days. So we we pretty much finished. They finished the 2016 Wells Fargo, and they were spraying Roundup behind the last groups going out that afternoon on the Sunday.
Talk about preparation.
Yeah, that place is ridiculous, mate. They're always doing something.
Is it only 18 holes?
It's 18 holes. Yeah,
The complex, the whole
golf course is 18 holes. They've got 5 or 6 tennis courts, driving range.
And
all
how
that
many
sort of-
staff? I mean, that's tournament staff.
50 as a base, but when we do tournaments, about 150.
What?
Yeah.
50 was not the tournament. That's their normal.
That's base, yeah. That's general day-to-day maintenance.
I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared for that. I think, sorry for laughing. I can't get my head around that. I'm sorry. I remember a time when I was at Katoomba. I don't know why I find that hilarious. And we had 2. It was me and one other at the worst, at the lowest, right? 2 people looking after 18 holes. Not a big golf course, granted. And it was we couldn't, there's lots of stuff you can't do with 2 people on 18 holes. You got 50. I almost need to know what you could do with that many people. Yeah. Like what sort of things?
Pretty much anything you can think of. If you think of an Australian Open prep, that was nearly daily. That's sort of the level that it was at. So everything you can think of, that was what we were doing daily.
That's mind-boggling that happens on a daily basis. So 120 days.
Yeah, so that was from rebuild to PGA Championship.
For real?
Yep.
Man, that's an incredible thing to have been part of.
Yeah, so as a first major the club has held. So they've been on the PGA Tour rota for many, many years. But it was a first major championship there, and it was Justin Thomas's first major win. So I was there for that.
Far out. That would have been incredible. What? I'm going back to you being a rouseabout mate at Cooma.
Yeah.
How good is this? And you've taken the opportunities that they've come to you. Like you said, you worked hard, right? That's pretty special to have that on your CV, to be involved in that, be part of that, and have the Supers called you and said, hey, we'd like you to come back and this is what we've got going on.
Yeah.
That's huge. How long did you stay for?
I think we finished up in October with the PGA, and then sort of I did a brief little stint at Liberty National for the President's Cup straight after. Quail had the President's Cup 21, but COVID sort of shifted that around, and I was sent up there to look at the build and sort of, how that was all going to play out.
Yep.
Pretty soon after that, I was sort of sniffing around for an assistant's job. My role over there was assistant in training.
Okay.
So I thought, they're sending me up here. I must be pretty close, and wasn't, apparently.
Right. Okay.
So I left in the January of 18 was when I got back.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Wow. So, where do you go to from that?
From that last stint,
that's huge.
I came back into Royal Canberra, into the fold there with Benny and the guys again.
That's just a bit of a come down, really.
Yeah,
I mean, everything seems a lot slower, doesn't it?
It was really opportune timing. We had a LPGA Euro Tour here in January 18, so I sort of came here 2 weeks before that and was straight into prepping Royal Canberra for LPGA events. So.
You're just the pinch hitter that comes in to absolutely lift the game when it comes to rebuilds, man. I'm listening to your story, and this is wild. This is so good.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't really know you're in it until you're not.
Sure.
You just get on with it. It is what it is.
So straight to a high level women's tournament at Royal Canberra.
Yep.
That would have been pretty good because Royal Canberra's been known for a long time to host major tournaments, major events. A great mark for the club, and you've walked straight back into that in Australia. How did that go down for you here? Was there much work, or the course didn't need changing? It was just lifting the game ready for a tournament?
Yeah. So basically everything was relatively done when I got here. It was more just filling in where needed and just sort of Johnny on the spot through that little period and helping the guys out as much. I knew the golf course to a degree. I'd been here previously, so I sort of fit straight back in. The guys were similar, a few staff changes, but nothing major. So it was an easy fit to come straight back in and just sort of jump in wherever needed.
Sure.
And we sort of progressed from that point, and I've sort of been here ever since.
Oh, okay. And so that's your time back to here, and you stayed. So you came back in what role?
Foreman. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so tell us a little bit about that. The roles changed and what you experienced during that time to now. I mean, obviously there was COVID in that and all that sort of stuff, and there's been work on the golf course.
Yeah.
How's all that progressed since you came back?
Yeah, so it's been a fun ride, mate. We've gone through a lot as a club, as a team, but I guess realistically, I'm the only consistent through the entire thing. We've got one other fellow, Rob, who's a 29-year veteran of the golf club. Yeah,
right.
Down here with us, but outside of him, it's just me throughout that nearly 7-year period to now.
Wow.
COVID was no real dramas for us here in the ACT. We didn't really stop work at all.
Yep.
It was actually nice. There was no golfers out here for a couple of weeks. So COVID wasn't a real drama for us outside of work, obviously, but at work, no dramas at all.
Okay. Yeah. Now, along the way, and you'll have to fill me in on dates and bits and pieces. So there was a pretty serious renovation done to Royal Canberra from 1 to 18. So tell us a little bit about Royal Canberra, because we're going to get into that now that you're here in 2018 onwards. There was course changes done, redesign done. I don't know when those things were started. So you're 1 to 8. You got 1 to 27. 27-hole complex. Tell us a bit about the space.
27-hole championship golf course. The Westbourne course, so that will be 1 to 18. The Westbourne golf course was redeveloped 2014-15. Reopened again 2016.
Okay. Righto. Yep.
So my time while I was here in 16, I was sort of involved in the back nine sort of stuff, but by the time I'd gotten back, everything was
all done.
Thereabouts done. But Andrew Boyle started all that stuff early days.
Yep.
He went when he was a superintendent here, and then Benny Grilovich took over late 15, early 16.
And that was that OCCM at the time?
At the time, yeah.
Yep.
And
Mike Clayton was involved in.
Yeah, Clates has moved on to his own sort of thing.
Yep.
But we're still working close with OCM.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
So you got a good relationship with those guys.
Yeah, cool. Because it's lifted the game. It was well known. Different grass types went out on the golf course and that sort of stuff along the way. So tell us a bit about you came in as foreman 2018. How did you progress, and whenabouts did you come to the role of superintendent? How did that all unfold for you?
I think I was about a year or two in the foreman role. It's hard to remember. And then moved into the 2IC role with Benny Gilovich, and I was in that role for 3 years as the assistant. So it was, like I said, it didn't really change much for me. I knew the golf course quite well. It was pretty easy to sort of slide into that role from the foreman. 3 years in the assistant role, and then that was sort of Jake Gibbs' time. Jake Gibbs came in as a super of Royal Canberra at that point, and then Jake's moved on to Eleanor, and the club, was luckily enough, they thought I was the man for the job, and
based on where you've been already.
It's actually three years next week. I've clicked over as
so 2021 after COVID.
After COVID,
you've been able to take the reins, as it were. The club said, yes, you're it, Ryan. We want you, and you've had a big 3 years. So that's a very expansive amount of experience, and then condensed into what I would consider a short time for you.
It's happened quite quickly. I was to sort of put it into context. I was 28 years old when they gave me the keys, and my first daughter was born the month after. So
wow,
it was
talk about hands full.
Pretty hectic season. So that was October, November, and then we were straight into my first season as a super. And
wow,
like I said, felt comfortable with the golf course, but once you've got the hot seat, mate, it is a bit daunting for sure.
And having home life, and I know what that's like. Got two little ones. You've got a little one at the time.
Yeah,
that's home is not really a lot of rest, and work's not a lot of rest.
Yeah, it's pretty full on. I must give a shout out to my crew at the time. It was Jakey Smith and Luke Triffett. Those guys were my senior guys. They carried the team through that period. So
well, you got to have the right team around you as well. That's part of the deal, isn't it? To get the right people involved, and you build the right team over time. And mate, okay, fantastic. What a hell of a story. Like, what a hell of a journey that was. I had no idea you went over with the Ohio stuff, and to get that Quail Hollow gig, and you spent time at the Aussie here, and that's a wild ride. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Probably the short version of the story, but it's been mate, I'm incredibly lucky to be in the position I'm in. It's one of those things, mate. I don't take it for granted any day, mate. I'm consider myself lucky to sit here.
Yeah, no, look, and driving the gates and come here, and you come up and pick me up, and we come down the shed, and just driving through all that. Like, as a guest in here at the moment, it feels pretty special, right? To have the keys, as you said before, at the age that you've had it, on the back of the journey you've had, and your experience here already. That's from the outside looking in. That's a pretty awesome place to be in right now in your career.
Yeah, it is, mate. And mate, this place holds a real special place in my heart. The club's done really well by me, and I hope I can do the same thing for them.
Yep.
We've got a lot on the bone in the next couple of years, and starting next week especially. But we're moving in the right direction, and it feels like a great privilege that I get to lead this team and lead the club through that.
Unreal, mate. Very, very impressive indeed. Now it's time to turn the page and let's learn a little bit about Royal Canberra and some of its recent times and its changes and its improvements, and it's a living space, so it's always happening. Mate, can you tell us a little bit about the drive down here? I know we're up we're up elevated a little bit up here. I think we're about 500 or 600 metres above sea level at Canberra, so it gets reasonably cold. It's actually coming tonight. Yeah. I brought the rain with me again, like we did when we went to Perth.
Yep.
Mate, tell us a little bit about the landscape, what it's like here, what the environment's like to look after a special golf course like Royal Canberra.
Yeah, I'd say the climate's probably the hardest aspect of maintaining turf here. We get extremes of both ends. So, for instance, last Monday we had a -6.
-6?
That was last week, yeah.
And that's so we're in currently. This is being recorded in September.
Yep.
So -6 overnight.
Yeah, not uncommon. So we would sort of average 90 to 100 hard frosts a year. When I say hard frost, anything below -2.
Yeah, right.
We're pretty consistent around that.
Wow.
Winter period. Yeah, moving into summer, we can hit 40 degrees, no problems at all. Extended periods in the high 30s, relatively dry heat.
And you get the dry wind.
Yeah, it's not humid. That's probably one thing we've got going for us. But dry as.
Yep. And the hot that wind, it's not too different to where I was working in the Blue Mountains in a way, because you're elevated enough, and you guys are a little bit further west, but you get that westerly, southwesterly, hot, dry wind stuff, or even the northwesterlies are hot dries, but that low humidity, and when it comes in, it's just you can watch the grass just dry out in front of your eyes.
Yeah, it's life's a bit easier now that we're transitioning to warm season grass, but through those years, it was she was pretty full on through the summer period.
And you've had some pretty wildfires around Canberra as a region in general. You got the wonderful Brindabella Ranges out the west side that you look out over is it the 19 to 27 gets the best view of that end
it does,
of a landscape. It's beautiful. It looks magic. There's so many beautiful parts to this golf course. So that's where we sit. There's your extremes, right?
Yep.
That's pretty full on swing, because did you have 30 here the other day recently, or pretty close?
Mid-20s. We've had a couple of mid-20s. Cooch was sort of starting to come out of dormancy, and she's gone straight back in. So, look, this time of year, the shoulder seasons are, genuine shoulder seasons, and they're usually lovely.
Yeah.
We've probably had a little bit more heat and warmth around this year than we have in previous years this early, but... Yeah, it's not uncommon to have a bit of a false start, and then we get smacked with the frost.
Hammered.
It is pretty common. Yeah.
Do you get snow here?
Every now and then, we might get one a year. And it'll snow for 5 minutes, and everyone goes mad. But.
Yeah. We did that in the mountains. Like you talked about early starts. Like I remember, we used to hold some events in September, October, springtime, like usual, and you would get going, and then we had it snow in October. A couple of times, and you're out there, everything's warming up, and everyone's getting ready for these big events, and then all of a sudden it snows on the day off, and everyone's like, what's going on here? How does that work?
It's always the way.
So it's pretty intense to look after, and it's a beautiful part of the world. In terms of the golf course, let's get a little bit into your 27 holes. Tell us how big this is. You were telling me before. Tell everyone in the audience how big this is.
It's probably bigger than most people realise. So we're 127 hectares fence line to fence line, and of that we've got just under 35 hectares of maintained short grass, and that doesn't include the 15 hectares of immediate rough that we've got just on the outside of fairways. So predominantly now we're centre and a cooch on the front 9, tees, fairways, greens rounds. About to do 10 to 18 starting next week. Across the road on the old 1927 course, it's sort of cooch, fescue, poa, ryegrass.
Okay,
it's a bit of a blend.
Cool season.
Bit of a blend. Pencross greens out there, and then on the course proper, it's pure distinction on all the green surfaces.
Yep. All part of the new stuff.
Yep.
The new build
side,
from the OCM or ACCM, and now OCM, in who's looking after you still. Tell us about the grass surfaces. What are you using? Tees? Well, you mentioned Santaran has gone through on the newer stuff that you've transitioned to. Pure distinction on the greens. But you mentioned Pencross on the old stuff.
Yep.
How have you found, and let's talk a little bit about that while we're here, how have you found pure distinction? Because it's maturing. I've got to ask, was Royal Canberra one of the first to use pure distinction?
I think it might have been, mate.
In Australia?
It was. If it wasn't the first, it was very close.
Because there's only you and, correct me if I'm wrong, and Peninsula Kingswood potentially in their earliest time.
Kalara
have it, yep.
Boys at Royal Sydney are just doing it.
Yes.
I think there's another one down in Tassie. Royal Hobart, I think, has got a couple down
there.
Okay.
Possibly. But in terms of, so this was done in 2014, 2016?
14.
So, I don't know that there was much more before that. Anyway, so how have you found pure distinction now that it's matured by, 10 years, in a sense?
Yeah.
And some of and an older grass, relative to what you know? Because I know there's lots of chatter about it. It's the latest, it's the newest kid on the block, right? There's lots of people using it, lots of people thinking about using it. I'd done some work recently, or nearly a year ago, at Blackheath Golf Club in the Blue Mountains, and I was looking after the golf course there and helping them out. And there's a couple of combinations that we have. We didn't have pure distinction bent grass, but we had the Yolonga sands that you guys have here in your greens, and we'll talk about that soon as well, because I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So that's a combination that's pretty interesting. But pure distinction, how have you found that relative to, say, the Pencross, and relative to what you know?
Yeah, so I would say it's a fantastic surface. It's incredibly dense. It is really, really resilient. Very little disease comes into these greens.
Okay.
Every now and then you'll get a bit of dollar spot. Take-all patch is probably another one, bit of brown patch, but in the time I've been managing it here at the club, we've not had any Pythium really go into it at all.
Right.
And when I say we get a little bit of disease, I'm talking maybe 1 or 2 little bits. I'm not talking anything major outbreak. Really drought tolerant. You can dry these things down a lot, and it probably leads into a little bit of the sand. Yeah, we can have these things at 5% on a moisture meter and not see wilt.
Really?
And if they do wilt, we can
catch them pretty quick.
Get them back pretty quick. Yeah, it's a really resilient grass. I think probably one thing to touch on is guys that are, the early guys that started with it, probably treating it a little bit like an A series bent grass. And if you're not keeping up with your sand, you can accumulate a lot of organic matter quickly.
And that goes with its density, I take it, how fast and how thick it can grow.
Exactly right. And I think that's probably something we dealt with probably over the last 4 or 5 years. We've been chasing a little bit of an issue we've got, but we're on the front foot now, and we've sort of worked it out. But it is easy to come undone with it.
Right. Okay.
It's probably comes with a bit of a disclaimer that they don't tell you about. So
there's always something, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect grass.
But I would say that if you can put it in on your surfaces and you can stay on it from day one, I think you can have an incredible surface. I think actually the other one that's got is Victoria.
Yeah, I was just thinking that because I went and saw the Oz Open that was down there a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and they are mint.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Like you look at those guys and how they're operating, how they're top dressing. Yeah. Really low fertility is the key. Don't overfeed them.
Okay.
They're happy. They sit happy.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so that's good to know. Now we'll combine that, as I said, with the Yolonga sand. Now I went to the quarry here. It's over at Gundagai, just 100-something kilometres away, because Blackheath, where I was, they had 3 greens rebuilt with Yolonga. I didn't know what it was. I wanted to learn more, and we were having some dramas up there at Blackheath with it really firming up, not letting a lot of water in the surface. That infiltration rate was nearly nothing. It was so hard because they hadn't done any aeration for a long time, even just the surface opening up. And I didn't know it. It's a newish product to our industry here in New South Wales and the ACT, and I'd heard that you guys had it here on your course. So I gave you a call, and I don't know, the other one was at Killara Golf Club, had used it as well in their rebuild. So I wanted to understand more. That's a really interesting sand from my perspective. Not only ever dealt with USGA stuff in the past and any of the local greens that we had in the mountains, but some of the characteristics of it are quite interesting. It's almost, and I can't say that it is, but I imagine it's almost like some of the sandbelt stuff where it packs out quite firm and becomes a really firm, bouncy surface if you're really not watching yourself, I guess. Is that right? Yeah,
no, you're spot on, and that's its strength.
Yeah.
If you understand it.
Yeah, if you want to get the right thing out of it.
It's one of those things, if you understand it early days, then you're going to have a really good time with it.
Yeah.
That is its key property. It can firm up really, really quickly.
Yep.
We can get really firm greens, really fast greens without having to do a whole lot to it. But probably the other key to it is if you've got to stay on it, you've got to keep with your solid tining. Deep watering is a big one. But it will seal up if you're not doing anything, because I hadn't done anything at the time. If you're not careful, it can catch you.
Well, I was like, what's going on with these greens? This is really weird. Yeah. And having known that you guys had them, I was like, the best in the country are using it. I've got to find out what they're doing. And that's when we were talking. And I was really impressed by what it is allowing people who use it. And I think Canberra, in general, because it's a local quarry, have been using it for quite a few years. Yeah,
James has been bringing sand over here for many years, and I don't know that any golf club here in town isn't using it.
Yeah, because I spoke to Peter Federal and...
I think Sportsfield's Marnica's
been rebuilt with it. The sports field. So, interesting. So I went and saw James at the quarry, and he showed me around and showed me the sands, and it was fascinating to see the different ways that he blends them up gets the different consistencies with it. And now, of course, and we talked about Royal Sydney before, Royal Sydney are doing it.
Yeah.
They're using it on all their surfaces and profiles. So I think what it's bringing to golf in New South Wales... and what it's already brought to Canberra is something that we haven't really been able to do in the past, because a lot of people will talk about those surfaces down in the sandbelt in Melbourne and how good they are and how firm they are and they roll. You guys are able to do that quite well here because you've got to know it and you've got to play with it.
Yeah, I think, like I sort of said, it was kind of a catch-22 with the pure distinction. There was a learning curve there. There's no doubt about it. Once we got it figured out, and probably put that down to Jake Gibbs, he was a mad scientist. He would tinker with it all the time, and we come up with a few different things, and sort of continued pretty much with that process. And a lot of deep aeration, open that surface up at least once a month, just a small time. But yeah, once you can work out your moisture, you can work out where you're sitting, what you want to be trying to achieve. It's very, very easy to produce a good surface. And it's like you say, we've always looked at those Melbourne courses and gone, geez, why can't we do that? You know? And I think, like you say,
and now
we can.
And so you've got that here, and you've been playing with it. As a team, you've worked it out. As a club, you've worked it out. I see that as a pretty impressive, I say selling point loosely, but a pretty impressive standout part of the golf course that's on offer here at Royal Canberra.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it up and let's talk about the fairways.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about in the past. Now, I've never understood it, and that's okay. I don't need to, but I try to. In the past, you had bent grass fairways.
That's right.
Now, I do want to sit on this one for a little bit and understand, because you mentioned how much area for fairways do you have?
Just under, what have we got? 25 hectares of fairways.
Okay, and that includes the 19 to 27. So let's take away a third.
On the Westbourne course, it's with the bent grass, it was about 21.
So 21 hectares of bent grass
Yep.
to maintain. Now, your fairways are cutting. What are you cutting your fairways at, bent grass?
With the bent grass, it sort of varied. In the season, we would get down to 10, but, if we got hot, we'd lift that height up. But anywhere between 10 and 14 is sort of where we were maintaining it, yeah.
We all know how much of a struggle bent grass can be on greens. 21 hectares of bent grass on your fairways is a challenge. Now, I imagine, I never got to see it, so I don't know, but I imagine it was a mint surface.
Oh, it was, mate. Yeah, it was, to play golf on it was truly unique.
Because they do it in America, don't they?
Yeah,
it's not uncommon. It's just not uncommon. It's not common in Australia.
Yeah, like it was a great surface for the most part. It was so hard to maintain in summer.
Yeah,
that was the biggest part.
Hard work, right?
That was the biggest part. Yeah.
Now you got a pretty good water supply here, do you?
Yeah, we pump it straight out of Lake Burley Griffin.
Okay, so only an enormous. Lake. Not saying you've got an endless license to do so, but you've got a pretty good supply that you can utilise.
Yep.
That's a lot of water use for your fairways. Like you said, you've got to then manage the wear and tear and the stresses of that grass. Was it a stressful thing to do? Like we always kind of stress about our greens from time to time, especially in heat waves. Was the fairways, did it feel like a giant green? Like in a sense, were you having to worry and work at it hard?
Yeah, constantly.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, it is, and it probably contributed to a bit of our high turnover because it was stressful. There's no doubt about it. You're worrying about stem weevil and pythium.
Oh, I didn't even
across
think of
the
insects.
Entire property, rather than just your 1 or 2 hectares of greens. So you've always got to be on your game. On top of it wouldn't be uncommon, just to give you a scenario. We'd have 12 or 15 people hand watering fairways throughout the day.
What?
Yeah.
So you had a staff of 50 like Quail Hollow? I'm joking.
I wish. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So that was obviously something the club had wanted to do at the time, I take it. It'd be something different. Look, and I'd heard this before because I'd interviewed Dave Rogers, the super from Bathurst Golf Club. Now, Dave's been around a long time. I've got to know Dave over the years. And he was saying that he used to work on the Murray, and I think it was Corowa, but I'm not 100% on that. But it was a Murray course, and he mentioned that they'd had bent grass on their fairways back in the day. So it's not impossible.
No.
It's just not very common in this country, and certainly in an environment like here, I would have thought it would have been hard. So it actually was hard work.
Yeah, it was, mate. It was real hard.
But the surface was pretty unreal.
When it was good, it was fantastic. It was. Yeah.
I recall, because I was here a couple of years ago, and I recall that was when you were doing trials of a warm season grass to see where the club was wanting to go. So I think obviously they were thinking that they were going to do a transition and which way you were going to go.
Yep.
So you trialed that. What did you trial? How long did it go for?
So we did a couple of different things, and I guess the driver for it was sustainability. 100%. We were using a lot of water, a lot of chemicals. It was hard work on the staff.
Yep.
We
and expensive.
And expensive. Right? Yeah. Look, there's no secret. It was bloody expensive.
Yeah.
So the club decided late 2019, early 20 to maybe look at some other options. So had a couple of different agronomists come out, and the recommendation was Santa Ana Cooch or Zeon Zoysia or Sir Grange, I think it is in Australia.
Ah, yes.
So we put trial plots of both in early. They were originally just small trial plots, a couple hundred square metres, and then it was pretty clear over about a 6 to 12 month period that the club said, all right, well, let's do a hole. We did the 7th fairway, or the 7th hole in its entirety, in Santa Ana Cooch.
Okay.
We wanted to sort of watch it for 12 months, put actual play across it,
Yep.
how it handles with winters.
Sure.
You know, it's a short par 4, so a lot of short iron shots into the greens. How is it going to
so
recover from
divoting and
divots
all that
through
sort
that?
of, yeah.
Through that real dormant period.
Yep.
So that happened late 2020. We did that first hole, the
Okay.
seventh hole. Yeah. So
And so that was the grass that they chose to do on the larger plot for.
That's right, yeah.
How did the Zoysia perform in its trial location?
look, it was okay. I just don't think it got hot enough here for it or humid enough for it. I think that it just didn't like the winters all that much. Didn't handle the traffic that we would do 65 to 70,000 rounds a year.
Yeah, right.
So it is a busy golf club, and I just
right.
just didn't cope with the traffic, and it was sort of the price was a contributing factor. Then like Kalara were the only other ones that had
they did their approaches and surrounds.
So look, the price was prohibitive to push forward with it.
Yep.
And once again, it was unknown. It was sort of a bit of a gamble whether we, if we go and put Zeon Zoysia on 20 hectares.
It's a big space.
It's a big space. It's a big cost.
Are the turf farms that big to grow?
Yeah, it's a good question. But, it was one of those things you sort of sit here and you go, oh, do we do this? Do we know if it's going to work?
Sure.
Santa Ana for forever and a day has been utilised across the country, and especially here in Canberra. Santa Ana's the dominant warm season grass.
Okay, right.
So it was really easy to make a case study. Federal Golf Club across the road have got Santa Ana fairways.
Yep.
Both Manuka and GIO Stadium, they're Santa Ana base.
Oh, okay.
And then just about every other sports field around town has some sort of warm season variety as a base.
Yep.
So it was easy to sort of say, look, we think this can work for sure.
Yep. Sure. And it's like you said, it's been worked around a lot of places. I know, and I speak for myself. Anywhere that I had it at Katoomba, we ended up putting in. A lot of people asked the question. What I found at Katoomba, and I'll speak about it from my own perspective, was we didn't have fairway irrigation. We didn't have any of that. But what I found was that when it went dormant, it would just sit just alive enough that as soon as you got a lick of rain, it would kind of wake up.
Yeah.
And it would just reserve itself pretty well, and it was thick enough that it could withstand the droughts, and it was thick enough that when it went off for winter, it had enough of a density to it that it could survive quite easily the game and the traffic and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, we didn't water it. We couldn't. It wasn't possible. And it worked from that perspective, from a drought perspective as well, because we had soils of only 200 mil, and then you hit sandstone.
Yeah.
So from a shallow soil perspective, so I found it quite versatile as well, and strong. But it's been used so much. So like you said, you could, but you trialled it here. Yeah. Did your due diligence, right? That's the important, not just going off hearsay and what you've seen, because it's site specific. It's just the same.
Yeah, we had to make sure it was the right fit for the club. The members had to, get the feel for it, and obviously it was completely different from what they were playing on.
Yep.
So look, it was a pretty difficult time at the golf club for membership, for staff. We pushed through, and we were led by a really good general manager, a really good board. Doesn't happen without those guys in your corner.
It can be very hard work otherwise.
Absolutely, yeah. So I must give those guys a shout out to get the ball rolling, and we've just pressed on with it, and here we are. We're about to do another 11 hectares of it.
So the grass was chosen of Santa Ana.
Yep.
When did you start stage one?
So stage one started 2023 last year. Yep. So we did 9 holes last year. 9 hectares of turf. 9.4 hectares of turf went on the ground last year.
Okay. 9.4. Okay. And how has that gone after a year?
Yeah, so not even a year old.
Not even
a year old. Sensationally, I had a few little reservations in the back of my head, going, "Oh, how's this going to go through winter? Is it going to thin?" We did a couple of things leading in. We carried a lot of grass going into that first winter. I probably sacrificed a little bit of playability. I brought the cutting height up to 15 mil leading in. I wanted to grass them up as much as I could.
Yep.
We went into winter really, really healthy, and I'm happy to say we've come out of it. We've got no thin areas across the front nine at all.
Yeah, right.
It's held up really, really well. Better than I could have ever expected.
And how did you go for the install? Did you lay solid turf? Were you sprigging, line planting? What did you do here?
So 99% of it's solid turf, maxi rolls. So we turfed a lot.
Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah, so it's
but an instant surface.
Pretty big operation. Yeah, so we were laying up to about 4,500 square meters of turf a day.
Wow.
And some days more. So if we had hangover from the day before, we would the guys would get 5,000, 6,000 out, no problems.
That's incredible. That's a lot.
It's a lot of turf. Yeah.
Where's the farm?
So the farm's out at Narendra.
Right.
At Narrandera. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So how far away is that? It's
about-
you in semis are coming.
Yeah, about 4 hours. So they're bringing B doubles out. So they were loading anywhere between 3 to 5 trucks a day, bringing them over.
Out.
Yeah.
That's a big operation, right? Like you were saying.
Logistically, it's not a little
big.
job. Yeah, it's a big job.
And
for
traffic, how did you maneuver all the turf in on site? Was it bringing the rigs in and?
Yeah, so unload the truck in the car park here at the shed,
Right?
And the guys, the Pitchcraft guys, would unload all the trucks and basically truck it out to wherever they were.
With
Smaller trailers, skid steers,
right.
anything we could to get it out there. And yeah, it's a pretty big operation.
That's incredible. So. I imagine the club would have been holding their breath as much as you were for the first year. There's a bit of pressure, right? To work it.
There's no doubt about it. It's like you say, it was such a contentious thing to change from the bent grass over to the Santarana, and golf club members want to play golf every day of the year, and we've kicked them off of 9 holes for a season essentially, and there were a fair few people that didn't think it was going to work, and like I say, there was a lot of pressure on not only myself but the team, the club as a whole. Have we made the right decision? How's this going to go? What's it going to be like in winter? Is it going to survive? And
a lot of question marks, a lot of variables, lots of and you're sitting there with your experience, your knowledge, your team. You've made decisions. You've got your forward planning ready to go, and you're like, okay, now we've got to execute. And you still you got to be as much as you can be 100%. You're still like, well, it's not all in my hands. There's Mother Nature to deal with, and there's all sorts of things that can go wrong.
Yeah, and it was putting it on the ground last season. We had a really ordinary summer for couch grass.
Yeah,
we didn't hit 30 degrees until January.
Yeah, right.
So, I'm sitting there looking at the weather going, come on, mate.
We want roots to be hammering down.
On. So it was, you're right, mate. There was a little bit of pressure. There was, there's always a little bit of doubt, but like you say, I've seen it. I know it can work, and you've got to trust it that it's going to work.
Yeah, 100%. And what was it like for the team having completed that stage? Because it's a big project.
Yeah,
I don't know. That would have been was that your first big project that you've led here?
No, so that's about third or fourth.
Okay, is that all?
Yeah, so we assess project work seems to follow me wherever I go.
Well, you're a gun, clearly.
So just to backtrack for a second, irrigations, we did a full irrigation system starting in 2020.
Wow, okay.
So Jake Gibbs got that up and running, and he did the front 9, and then I took over in 21, so I finished off the back 9.
Right. 22,
we built the driving range, so we rebuilt the driving range completely.
Oh, I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, so it was a complete knockdown rebuild. It's now it's 300 metres long. It's a world class driving facility.
So it's half distance for Bryson.
Yeah, okay. One of those things. Yeah, new putting green.
Wow. Okay, so you guys have been.
We've been busy. Yeah.
You've gone from it. Project folly, mate. That's what you're here for.
It's one of those things.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
That's unreal. But okay, so you've got all your ticking boxes on. The team would have come. You're a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, we've come together really closely over especially the last 12 months. I think the guys we've got a really good culture here now. Diverse mix of people. Quite young.
Yeah,
quite a young group of people. They get together, mate, and there's not much stopping them once they get going. They turfed all the bunker surrounds. We did all that in house, small rolls, and the team did that whole thing by themselves. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
there's a lot of pride in that too. I'm saying that because that's what we did a lot of stuff in house at Katoomba when we were doing it. I find when you as a team, you're not just doing maintenance, but doing that project build, it really. There's a lot more pride in rather than just hiring a contractor or having them do it because you need the extra hands. When you start to be involved and your team is, it kind of lifts the team to another level. There's a lot more skin in it as well.
Absolutely, and the team they take so much pride in what they do, and it's they genuinely love doing a good job, and they were going to do nothing but the best. And we sit back here, and once they were finished, mate, it was sensational to sort of see it, the camaraderie that happened in and around that piece. It was hard. We still had 9 holes of bent grass plus 9 holes of ryegrass essentially, plus all the ryegrass roughs to maintain, plus everything else going on. So it was a massive undertaking for the team, and they really pulled together and really got it done.
So let's talk about your team. What have you got? What's the team consist of? How many people?
So right now we're sitting at about 25. There's about a base of 19 to 20.
Yep.
Looking to bring on a couple more in the near future. But yeah, we sort of cycle through five or so casuals that come on with us through the season.
Yep.
So team's sort of broken down. It's myself, and then we've got Dennis Grounds. He's a 2IC. Luke Triffett is
Dennis Grounds.
Yeah, so he's come up from Catalina.
From Catalina.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
This is where he landed.
Yeah. So I stole him.
Okay.
Stole him from down there. So he came on a couple of months ago. So
nice.
Yeah, Grounds is off and running, and then we've got Luke Triffett. He sits in as 3IC / project manager.
Yep.
And then we go into foreman, which is Ray. He's from South Africa, and then into irrigation tech, spray tech, down into greenkeepers, apprentices, casuals, groundsmen, gardeners.
Wow.
Yeah.
And walking in your shed, mate, you got room. I come from a little shoe shed, right? It's this tiny little thing. So I'm walking in, you've got tables and lots of chairs and big spaces, and you're growing essentially. I'm going to throw it out there and say you probably need a new shed. Is that on the plans? In the future?
It's something we've only just started talking about.
Okay.
It is on the cards. The club want to invest in it. This club, I actually think this is one of the original sheds. I might need to check my facts, but it's been here a long time. We've outgrown it. There's no doubt about it. But I've seen far worse than this.
Yeah, for sure. And everything in time, right? It's all got to come in the right time.
Absolutely.
So 25 or so staff. I mean, that's a big... Is that this is your first post as superintendent?
Yeah, that's right.
At Royal Canberra.
Yep.
Jeez, you've done... You've had quite the career, mate. Very impressive. So, was the team... Did it grow during that time? What did you inherit? Did you inherit similar?
We probably had... lower numbers than that, and it's
okay.
We probably went through that project underdone.
Okay.
That's why I say there's full credit to those guys for banding together and getting it done, because we were pretty light on there for a little while. Moving into this year, it's something we've pushed hard on, just trying to get the right people in here. It's really important for me, because we've built such a strong core team now. I don't want to just bring in, I don't bring in the most talented person ever.
Yep.
I'd rather bring in someone that doesn't know anything, and we can train them up, and as long as you're a good person, you've got a good attitude.
Absolutely. And so a growing team, like I said, everything in time. The shed will come in time. The team's growing. You're building the right people around you. How do you go getting staff in Canberra? What's that like? Because I talk to a lot of people around the country in general, and I know a lot of people I've had conversations with, certainly in Sydney, find it obviously extremely hard. That's the nature of our industry at the moment. Is it the same here?
Yep. Absolutely, yeah. It probably sound like a broken record for all the guys you speak to. Yeah, getting qualified staff it's almost impossible, mate.
Yeah, right.
I've sort of gone outside and thought about it a little bit differently. I've got 3 South African guys here with me at the moment.
Okay.
Working with Envoy Golf for the last few years, bringing we've had guys from Canada, Sweden, Finland, Iceland. That's sort of how I've bolstered the team over the last few years.
Yep.
You've got 3 South African guys with us at the moment that we've got on sponsorship visas. Getting staff it's really hard, because Canberra's basically a public servant town.
Yeah, sure.
It's really hard to compete. The baseline salary for a public servant's $85,000-$90,000 a year. It's hard to convince.
How are you going to compete with that?
It's hard
right?
to convince a young person to come and be a greenkeeper when you can go and earn that money pretty easily. So
So it's no different.
We've got the same issues as everybody else. It's just about thinking a little bit outside the box to try and get a few people here.
Does it? I haven't quite had the same background as yourself. You're a rouse about the country in Cooma, but I grew up in the Blue Mountains, outside Sydney, in the country. I struggle. Struggle's the wrong word. I feel disappointed sometimes that I couldn't employ local people that weren't. I wanted to give young locals a start.
Yep.
I look at where you've come from. Young, local, Cooma, got a job at Yawani, and look where you are now, right? Do you feel disappointed that there's not similar... It's a question, yeah. Do you feel disappointed at all that some young locals aren't interested in our industry, aren't looking at it, they're not going to get the opportunity that you had? Look at where you've gone and what you've achieved in your career. Would you like that to happen would you like to be able to offer that start to someone local, a local kid growing up, or it doesn't really matter?
Absolutely, and it's probably something that, and it's funny you just touched on it, because I've sort of looked outside of Canberra to grab people. So we now have 4 people from Cooma working on the team.
That's cool.
Which is awesome for us.
That's awesome.
It's quite cool, and we all went to the same school, did all the same sort of things.
Yeah, right.
So, there's some of the guys are a bit younger than me, but but it's something that looking outside of this local Canberra market, it has been successful for me.
Right.
We do a lot of stuff with the local STA group, know, going into schools and stuff like that. But it is hard getting younger girls to come on board with it. It's a tricky trade.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting people from overseas, obviously, to help out, and that's what's helping you through that period at the moment, and it might continue to be a piece of your puzzle moving forward anyway.
Yep.
I feel disappointed sometimes that Aussie kids that are growing up locals, or anyone who's living local, they're not looking at it. I don't know what I'm a broken record about it, talking about what can our industry do to try and improve that, and I'll ask probably everyone that I keep interviewing what their thoughts are. Do you have any ideas? You're trying different things, but is it just not there? Is it really a lot of hard work? And can our industry help in any way? Or are they doing stuff?
Yeah, I think there's some good initiatives coming on board. We've got the Women in Turf thing. We've got there's a couple of initiatives that ASTMA are running.
Yep.
Look, it's a hard one to answer, but
sure.
Yeah, look, I don't know what the answer is to get younger people to come and start an apprenticeship. I think it's tricky. The pay can be a little bit prohibitive. The work can be prohibitive to some people.
Yeah. No doubt.
I think if you find the right people, and I think that's where you've got to target your demographic, the young kids that want to play sport, they're fit, they have an interest in golf. We offer the guys to play golf. They can play golf here. All that sort of thing. Like, it's kind of enticing them outside of what you and I would say is a good job may not be for some younger people. So we've kind of got to think a little bit outside the box and say, how can we entice a younger generation? It might be, we might look at a gym membership. I don't know.
And like what you're saying, it's not just our industry, but also the club. Like you said, you're offering to be able to play golf here as part of that. And for some people, that's an extra carrot that might work. Yeah,
I think the hard thing, and especially with young people coming out of school, we work summer holidays. There's not much time off over Christmas, and they see all their mates down the coast laying on the beach having a great time while you're swinging off a hose. For an 18, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, that doesn't sound all that appealing to me. So maybe we've got to change the narrative about how we do things. We're always going to need to be here. There's no doubt about it. Maybe we look at alternate rostering.
It's funny you mention about the comparison of what your friends are doing or your mates are doing at the time if you get into this gig. You're a little bit younger than I am, but I think we didn't have social media. So it wasn't, you know what I mean? It was my friends are over there or they're off at the beach and you're seeing photos of it all the time. It was just, that wasn't there. That comparison on your daily life didn't exist.
Yeah.
You did what you did and you caught up with your mates when you caught up with your mates.
Yeah, unfortunately it's surrounding us, mate.
It is.
It's a way of
the world we're in.
Daily life, mate. There's no getting rid of it. So
it's a challenge, no doubt, that's there for everyone, mate. It's hard work. So, but you found your ways that are helping you.
Yeah, we'll continue to push different ideas and different ways of doing things, mate. It's I'm a big believer in if we can do something for them, not just offer a job, whether it might be we can give some specific training, or we can like say offer golf, or we do a lot of in-house sort of stuff to make it a little bit fun.
Yep.
It's just thinking a little bit outside the box just to try and keep them engaged, and hopefully they might go and tell some of their mates at the footy club or whatever it might be, and and that's been successful. We've had quite a few people word of mouth come on board. So
good stuff, mate. Good to hear. Now take us to stage 2 of your fairways. Where are you at? You've started?
Yeah, so we've sort of had a bit of a soft start to stage 2, which has been quite nice because sort of last year was pull the trigger and go. So we sort of brought the start date back this year, so we're starting a little bit earlier. We didn't start till October last year, so we've gone through 2 weeks. So we've sprayed out all the fairways, tees, greens, rounds. All the tees are stripped, so all the organic material that was left has been removed. Sand's been re-added. It's in the process of being laser leveled today. Amendments are getting put out tomorrow, I think, and then we're into laying turf Monday.
So what do you do to prepare? What's under your fairways? What soil type have you got under your fairways?
Heavy clay.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Hang on, heavy clay, and you had bent grass?
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
I'm not going to ask how that one got through the keeper.
Yeah, use your imagination.
I don't want to know. That's I didn't know that. Hey,
yeah, it's very heavy. Dries out and goes like concrete.
And turns. Wow.
It's probably one of the more difficult things to manage and maintain. But Santarana seems to love it. it grows really well in it. But I suppose as far as the fairways go, they'll be all ripped up and cultivated down to about 250 mil.
Okay.
So pretty much
turned over,
rolled in, and then re-leveled and recontoured, and in we go. And then
so you're keeping similar contours. None of that's really changing much.
No major contour change. All the bunker lips are being rebuilt. So talking about OCM, they're here next Monday.
Okay.
So all the bunkers will be rebuilt through that period as well.
Cool.
So that'll be a good win. But it's quite a bit of work to get done. So
there's always other things, right? When you said just fairways, it's not just fairways. There are other things, isn't there?
Yeah, there always is.
Yeah, always. So how long do you expect this project to take?
So the works component, we're really pushing to be done by Christmas. Before Christmas would be the goal.
Yep.
So we know from last year we laid 9.5 hectares, just under 9.5 hectares of Santarana in 6 weeks. We know we can get that. We know we can get that on the ground.
Yep.
Weather's a big factor, obviously. Sure. But look, we're pushing for in and around Christmas time to have all the turf on the ground, and then we sort of start our full growing programming in and around Christmas, and then hoping best case we'll be open late Feb, maybe early March will be the
because then you'll have it down and the temperatures will be right.
Yeah,
right,
that's right.
For the cooch to really start to
that's sort of the thing. Yeah, so first turf hits the ground on Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Very good. And it's going to be busy time. And like you said, it's all you've already done. You've started. Yeah,
it's definitely easier the second time around. You sort of know what to do and what not to do. That's for sure.
Exactly right, mate. It sounds very good, and I'm glad to see that it's Santa. You talked about a sustainable future from the club's perspective. From the outside, I'll speak from my perspective. Having seen and heard about it, when I heard it was Ben, I was like, oh, that's an interesting question mark. How does that go in summer? But from a sustainability perspective, what I think Santarana will bring to the club in terms of water saving, labour saving, cost saving, all of the things that go with that from a dollar perspective, which you can put your numbers on, of course, and the club probably no doubt has, the surface that it brings and what, the club and what yourself can do and the team, what, you'll boil down to what you do best to bring that surface out from a year-round perspective with that sustainability tick next to it. I think it's going to be pretty special, and I think it's going to make a big difference to the golf course and how they play, because we know that it performs well from a golf perspective. And it rolls out really nicely. I mean, Concord in Sydney changed over their approaches and their surrounds to Santarana when Doak did his, and Renaissance did their renovation to the golf course, because they've got Kikuyu everywhere, and they wanted that roll out into the green approaches and that. So you're going to have that everywhere here.
Yeah, that's the other contributing factor to these decisions was, how is the year-round playability going to be? What are we trying to be here? Look, we went down that road, and look, we've pivoted, and we want to push and be a powerhouse in the Australian golf market, and this is the first step to doing it. And it's like say year-round playability is going to be at the forefront.
I look at that, and I look at the trajectory of what these projects equal. We've talked about the pure distinction and where that's performed in other parts of the country. I look at the Yolonga Sand and what that gives as a combination for the golf course here with you guys, and looking at where Santarana is going to take you on the fairways and surrounds. I'm going to be blunt and ask the question, when are you hosting another major tournament, mate? You've been out of the loop for a little bit. I want to hear some good news. Do we know? Am I putting my foot in it? Has anyone talked about it?
It's always talked about in the background, mate. I think, look, there's no solid date.
Yeah.
It is something that is on the club's...
Okay, that's good to hear.
It is on the radar.
Good.
Definitely. Club celebrates 100 years next year, and we were sort of aiming for something in around there. I don't know for sure if anything's been locked in, but yeah, look, it is a conversation that's being had. We've had Ladies Australian Open here. We've had many events over the years,
and back in the 70s, I've seen photos of
Gary Player
exactly.
All
the
Greg
best
Norman,
in the world were here playing in that era, the Dunlop or whatever
That's
it was
right,
that was back
Dunlop
then.
Classic, yep.
And it's been well known for hosting events, like I said at the beginning. So 100 years, that's great in itself. A club because how long has it been here? Since what did we say earlier? We were
60
something.
Early 60s it moved up here.
Yeah, okay, so it's 60, 70 odd years thereabouts. So because now it's long gone under the lake.
Under the water, mate, yeah.
So 100 years for Royal Canberra next year, which is a great big milestone. So, look, I hope to see something in the future for Royal Canberra. Does that excite you?
Yeah, it does, mate. Having done so much tournament golf throughout my time, it is something that I'd love to be. I've never done one as a superintendent. I'd love to do that. I'd love to showcase the golf course for what we all know it can be and will be. I think it's going to happen at some point, and I think the club's pretty driven to get to that point.
Like I said, I'm reading the tea leaves in everything that's being done to the golf course. I mean, it points in one thing, as far as I can tell. So whether you want to tell me a date, look, I'm just going to say there's one coming, people. That's my guesstimate. So it's coming, mate. We talked about your shed. One thing that I've come here. It's John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. I've got to mention all the shiny new, the shiny green machines outside, mate. You've got a fistful of them.
Yep.
That I don't think I've seen that sort of a setup before, and I say that this is sponsored by John Deere Golf. I don't hide away from that, so I've got to ask the question. I've never walked into a shed with so many green stuff, mate. You got a lot of gear here.
Yeah, we do. We were probably one of, if not the first, when John Deere's resurgence in recent years, we were probably the first full shed to flip to the John Deere machinery.
So when around, what are we talking?
2020 we started our journey, and 2019 it was.
Yeah, right.
First gear landed in 2019, and we've just received our last piece of machinery for our full rollover. So.
Wow. So what does it consist of? Well, I mean, obviously, how many fairways and mowers you got and that sort of stuff? What have you got?
We've got 3 fairway units, 3 triplex greens mowers, 2 300-gallon, 1,000-litre GPS sprayers.
Right. Are they the GPS things that link with... How are they going? Because I've heard some unreal stuff, right?
Sensational, mate. Yeah, you'd be mad to buy anything but. It's such a good bit of kit.
Yeah. Is it a bit of a game changer in a sense?
It absolutely is.
What is it? Okay, look, and I haven't had the opportunity to do this with John Deere, so I'm using you, mate. Yeah. I'm using you, cool. And I'm sure they won't mind. Like I said, I don't hide away from the fact that this is sponsored by John Deere Golf. What is the GPS spray tank? How does it work? What's the thing?
Essentially, you map your areas with the machine. You just drive the perimeter.
Okay.
It'll create a boundary line, and then you can decide how you want to spray it. If you want to spray from the outside in, if you want to spray up and down, if you want to spray on an angle or do circles. You can do whatever you want, and basically when you've got all that set up, you can pull up to the fairway, select what hole you're on, line yourself up with a line on the screen, press a button, and away you go. It's spraying and steering for yourself. You don't have to
it steers?
It auto steers, yeah. You don't have to touch the steering wheel, yeah.
I'm going to have to come back tomorrow. And you're going I didn't know that. Really?
Yep.
That's how far the game's changed.
Yeah, individual nozzle control, so it won't overlap on anything you've sprayed. If you do, for whatever reason, want to spray manually and steer, you can drive over what you sprayed, and individual nozzles will turn off as you pass over.
No way.
So
you don't have, talk about efficiency of chemical use, right? Or anything that you're using, wetting agents, whatever it might be. That's unreal.
Yeah.
I didn't know this technology existed.
And I guess it plays into the sustainability role that we're trying to adopt here and really foster is, we wanted to make sure that our product is going where it's supposed to go at the right rate. Everything is as it should be. And I guess, we were doing 160 applications a year across this property while we were bent grass, and it wasn't until we got these sprayers that we realised how much product we were overspraying,
right.
Whether it just be dragged into a rough or
sure.
overlapped or whatever it might have been. We cut our sprayable area down by 3.5 hectares straight off the bat, and I think there's probably a little bit more to gain out of that.
Far out. That's a proper game changer. I had no idea about that. I didn't know it drove itself. That's crazy.
That's pretty cool.
So you got a fleet of all that. Do you have any walk behind stuff?
Yeah, we've got 6 walk mowers. They go out every morning essentially. So we predominantly mow with the walkies.
Yeah. Okay.
Triple X is on greens for weekend shifts.
Yeah. Okay.
But throughout the week, we get the walkies out there as much as possible.
And is that a tractor as well? A couple of tractors.
We've got three John Deere tractors. We've got 3 rough mowers, all John Deere. And then we've got about 6 gators as well floating around.
Yeah,
I'm probably missing something. There's 2 approach mowers. I'm just looking out the window.
They're all surrounding us. Is your office is in the middle of the shed compound, essentially. Yeah. Everything's green around us through the windows. Mate, that's impressive. I'm going to have to talk to John Deere about seeing if I can't get to you to have a look. I need to know more about those GPS sprayers.
Come and have a look. Yeah,
they're pretty cool. Incredible piece of gear. I had to ask the question. It would be remiss of me not to. So, mate, very, very interesting. Mate, we're talking about the history before we started recording because it's in a unique spot. You're on the banks of whatever the Lake Burley Griffin. How did I forget Lake Burley Griffin? It's only named after the bloke who designed Canberra. This is a pretty unique spot because you were telling me that this was the Arboretum. This is all the timbers and all the different plant types and everything that they were trialling and understanding for planting in and around Canberra as part of the overall design. Tell us a bit about the space here, like that side of the landscape.
Yeah, so originally this was an arboretum, and the forestry school for the ACT is just up outside our front gates.
Oh, is that what I drove through? Okay.
Yeah, so that's what you would have seen up there. So they were testing all sorts of different trees, so all over Europe, South Africa, through Asia.
It's like a worldwide selection of different things.
It was a big process to get all these trees here, and they propagated them, planted them on site, and they watched them. This was happening early 1900s. This is when it sort of started.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's long before...
Yeah, long before this was ever considered to be a golf course.
Yeah, right.
So
okay.
All of that was sort of happening. It was a ridiculous number of trees. Like, to give you an idea, we have something like 30,000 trees on this property. It's insane.
Really?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
I know, but I wouldn't have thought that many.
Yeah,
wow, okay.
And I think it's something like 6,000 different species of trees that are still on the property. Wow. I could be wrong, but it's a lot.
But it adds to the element of the site, right? It's not... As much as it's called the bush capital, Canberra, this particular spot where we are is a wide variety of so many different plant types because it was that. Yeah,
because that's what
it was for.
Yeah, essentially, it was trial data to Canberra was a new and emerging city at the time, and they had to plant it out, otherwise it's going to be roads and houses. They took all the trees that were performing well here, and they populated the streets of Canberra from stock that came out of this golf course or from this site. Yeah, this site. Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess to mention it, it is heritage listed.
Yeah.
The entire property is heritage listed, and individual trees are heritage listed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So it is problematic in when we're trying to maintain turf and doing all these projects and things. There are a few loopholes we've got to go through, and
Well, that was going to be my next question. Are there any challenges in dealing with that side of things for maintenance and
big time
as you improve?
It is a difficult one, but it comes with the territory. We know that first and foremost it was an arboretum, and we've got to respect the work that was done 100 years ago. Part
of the history of Canberra, right? This, and there's the building. What did you call the building?
It's an incinerator, yeah.
Okay.
So it started, that's heritage listed as well. So it started as, it was the first sewage line in the ACT, runs just behind this shed here.
Oh.
And that building was designed to burn human waste. So it's just a big heater basically, and they used to burn human waste in it, and then throughout some point, it might have been 50s or 60s, they started burning government documents in there. So you can imagine what's been burnt in there. But yeah, it's
things that we'll never know about.
You probably don't want to know. But yeah, it's right behind the shed here.
Yeah,
so it's another heritage listed building, and Burley Griffin was involved, and another fella. Eric Nichols, I think his name was. He was an architect of it. So yeah, heritage listed sewage line and incinerator on the property.
I know
as
Burley Griffin did a lot in the around Castle Crag and Castle Cove and that in Sydney on the North Shore, and there's incinerators that he designed.
Yeah, I think this is the only one in Australia that is in its original condition.
Yeah, right.
So a lot of them, there was a handful of them. There's a handful of them, and they turned them into cafes.
Yeah, been renovated. Yeah, I know where they are too, over Lane Cove and that sort of stuff.
Things like that. They've renovated them, but this is the only one that's in its original state.
Yeah, right. Wow, okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of history to this site on top of the fact that the golf course came here in the 60s, and Commander John Harris did the design.
He did, yeah.
You were telling me about the design plans that are here with the club.
Yep.
That's pretty cool history to have.
Yeah, it is. It's always good to look back on it, and I like architecture, and I sort of get into the weeds of that. So it's always good to sort of see how the original golf course was laid out and the original intention of the architect. And it's quite cool because you look at some of these old drawings from 1960, they're hand drawn, and there's incredible detail in them, and you can go out onto the golf course, and essentially all the playing corridors that we have here were laid out on a piece of paper while this was an arboretum. So he sort of did this drawing, and they cleared bits of the arboretum, and the original corridors are the same today, more or less.
That's cool. So it's a living space. It's essentially a living museum. We talk about golf courses being living, breathing spaces, but for this particular site, you're in a living museum. Essentially, because the trees are heritage listed.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Is that is it all the trees?
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
There are a significant number that are. So
Okay.
a lot of the radiata pines that are on the property were planted as windbreaks for their
Okay.
special species or,
Right,
endangered stuff or
Yep,
stuff they've brought in from overseas. So a lot of the radiatas are, free game.
Good.
We can,
They're rubbish.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a personal opinion, not yours.
Yeah. No, that's
Or the
that's
clubs, that's okay.
We're working our way through those, systematically, but there's 2,500 of them on the property.
I used to get annoyed. We had like 50 of them at Wentworth Falls. No?
It is, but look, it is also part of the charm of the golf club, and it does provide these corridors that we were sort of talking about. And
Yep.
you got to be really careful if you're going to be taking out a huge amount of trees. You'd want to make sure that you've got a replanting system and you've staggered that out, so you're not having huge numbers of juvenile trees on the ground. To keep that architecture and those corridors in condition.
And that's what makes Royal Canberra. It's one of the unique qualities about Royal Canberra because I don't know that there is another golf course in the country that's built inside an arboretum.
I don't
that's
think
of this heritage and this value, because the value of it, this is why it's heritage listed, obviously, is pretty significant to Canberra. Yeah. So the plant life here, as you said, was here from so early on. I want to know from you, and this is a question I like to ask, as people go around and they play golf, they're often looking at the ground, they're looking at their balls, they're staring at what they're about to hit. They don't often get a chance to look up and see, apart from over your back nine from 19 to 27, you can see the Brindabellas. But from someone like yourself who knows the course quite well, mate, I'm curious, what is your favourite location? Have you got any one locations on the golf course site that you're like, this is really cool, like I like this in the morning, or if you like it in the afternoon? Is there anywhere that you go, this is my pick of the spaces on all the places here?
Nothing comes straight to mind. I've got a few little spots that I like to hide away.
No, duck and weave and hide.
No, I often find a bit of shade, like on a warm day, and I like to watch. Like, especially if I know good golfers are on the property, I like to go and watch balls land on greens. I want to see what the greens are doing, how they react.
It's funny you say. I've had a couple of supers, and I can't think of the top of my head, that have said the same thing. Actually, I think Fraser Brown just said it to me recently about Lake Carrignap, about watching the way that golf reacts to what you're doing every day for a living. That's really important, right?
It absolutely
because that's the essence of greenkeeping on a golf course.
I mean, it's all well and good. Like, I'll take a club out and I'll go for a walk and I'll hit a few balls around. I'm 16 handicap. I'm not Tiger Woods by any stretch. But if I know that there's some good golfers, or I'll grab someone out of the shop. And I'll just say, hit a few balls into here for me, and I'll just watch them bounce, see how they react, if they're rolling out, if they're checking up with a good wedge shot, or if they're bouncing through, then probably going, they're a bit firm, or greens rolling a bit quick. We might have an event that, we might be in a spot where greens may be a bit too firm, too quick, or vice versa. They might be slow or a bit soft.
Yep.
So, it just helps with decision-making for me. I like to, more so than sit back and take the golf course in, well, I'll still do that.
Yeah, sure.
I'd prefer to go and just walk around and I'll just watch what's going on. That's a big thing for me. I like to, especially sound is a big one for me.
Okay.
How that ball sounds when it hits the green. If I can't hear it, then I know I need to firm them up.
Very good. There's one sound, because I was at Royal Melbourne once when Richard Forsyth was kind enough to show me around. He was leading up to the President's Cup.
Yep.
And he was showing, I'll never forget. I nearly fell over because I'd never seen greens, like I've never been to the Sandbelt at the time. And he was showing me the bounce of the golf ball on the ground. He just pulled a golf ball out and he's just bouncing on the ground. I'm like, what is happening here? My head's exploding. But one of the ones that I'll never forget the sound of was at Katoomba. I don't know if you get this phenomenon here, right? And our greens were old, so they're heavy. They weren't sands. It was that cold, obviously when your dams freeze over and that sort of stuff, right? But we'd watered the night before, because it was all manual and knockers and hoses and stuff, right? So it was always hard to do. But we watered the night before and it got that cold at the night that the soil profile had frozen. Yeah. Solid. Do you get that here?
Yeah, every now and then.
And when a ball lands on a frozen green surface, it makes this weird, like woody, clunky sound, and they bounce like concrete. And it's the funniest thing I've ever seen, but the sound is so distinctive.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I guess we might be conditioned to it because, our members go out at 7 o'clock in the morning, where it could be minus 6. It doesn't stop them. So, our greens are frozen a lot.
Yeah, okay, right.
Bunkers, the same thing,
You can stand on the surface of the sand. It doesn't do anything.
Solid, yeah.
It's just a weird thing, right? Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of the sounds that I wanted to. I always remember. I remember hearing it and seeing it the first time at Katoomba, and I was like, "Wow, that's hilarious, mate." What's one of the biggest challenges for you here? What's one of the biggest things that you find the most challenging thing about maintaining Royal Canberra?
Probably touched on a little bit earlier. Climate's a big one. Just the swings.
Yep.
They can be difficult, but when you sort of understand it after a few seasons, you can sort of prepare a little bit. There's a few little tips and tricks we can do. The Arboretum is difficult at times, especially moving into projects when you've extending fairways or new irrigation install. Open. You can't open trench anything. It's
wow! I didn't think of
that.
There's
all these rules and regulations around what you can and can't do in tree proximity.
Yeah, right.
So there's just these added layers to it. As far as maintaining it, it's sheer size is a factor.
Yeah, okay.
Its sheer size is a factor. But like I said, the club's on a really good path, and we're in the process of adopting a vegetation management plan. Hopefully we'll eliminate some of the far out of play areas and lower maintenance sort of options in and around roughs, garden beds, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool.
Still a ways away yet, but we're in a good spot. We're pushing towards that, so that'll all sort of tie in together. And having 18 holes of couch grass on the ground is going to be massive for me. I've never had that here in Canberra, so it's going to be a big one. So yeah, as it sort of sits, it's no different to any other guys that are out there, mate. We all have the same sort of issues. It's just isolated things that happen at different places.
Yeah, for sure, mate. It's always good to see if there's something there that someone might hear something similar, and like you said, a lot of the stuff is similar, just the same. But I think Royal Canberra, I don't know. There's something about even the drive into the car park. Do you have shade problems on the golf course? You talk about the trees a lot because it's part of the wallpaper, right? It's part of the golf course.
Not so much. We've done a lot of tree work in recent years, and we've taken a selective trees just to open up those corridors to let the sunlight through.
Yeah, okay.
Look, there is a few areas that we could do a bit of work around, but some of those trees are important to a lot of people, so we're not going to go and cut it down. So there's a few different things that we can do, whether it's limbing and whatever else. It is a tricky one, and I guess that was sort of the prohibitive point when the bent grass went in. There was a lot more trees then than there was now. So that's probably a point to make. It was a different golf course then to what it is now. We wouldn't have gone down this road if we didn't think it could work. And like I say, we've got a tree management plan, and we've really worked hard on getting the right trees out to open up the spaces to allow sunlight to get onto this couch grass. So it's not so much of an issue, but it's still there.
Has its places and has its moments.
Yep.
Mate, it's been a fascinating chat with you about Royal Canberra. I love the space here. I think it's just one of the most beautiful golf courses to turn up to, let alone go out there. I've never played it. I've never really seen a great deal of it either. And it's raining. I don't know what happened there. But, mate, Ryan, thank you so much for being on John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens on the Golf and Greenkeeper podcast. Mate, your journey has been fantastic to hear. I had no idea, which I'm so glad I didn't, because that was really fascinating to listen to, especially your international stuff in the States and the callback. The callback to Quail, I reckon that's gold. And a lot of your stuff here, mate, and from your humble beginnings in the country, Cooma, mate, I think you've had quite an incredible journey, and I can say that listening to you here on the other side of the desk, mate, it's been fascinating to have you on and fascinating to hear your story and to talk about Royal Canberra and your passion for Royal Canberra along with your passion for greenkeeping, mate. Thank you so much for telling us all about that, and I wish you well in the future, certainly with stage 2 of the Fairway Works, and I look forward to seeing Royal Canberra hosting the next major tournament soon.
Yeah, mate. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
And what did you think of that, ladies and gentlemen? Superintendent Ryan Stores from Royal Canberra Golf Club. Thank you so much to Ryan. That was absolutely fantastic, and I hope you got as much out of it as I did, ladies and gentlemen. That was a sensational yarn that we had down there in the greenkeeper shed in there with Ryan. So very accommodating. Thank you so much to Ryan for taking me in and doing that one on site as part of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens, which was fantastic. Now, you need to make sure that you check out deere.com.au to go to the website for John Deere Golf, and that's where you're going to get an idea of what they've got available to help you out on your golf courses and any of your sports turf facilities, and where you'll find out where the local reps are that you can get in touch with to go and check them out. Of course, that's part of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. You can check them out and make sure that, and go and ask them, hit them up. They're going to be able to help you out. Now, there's going to be lots of clickables. Don't forget to check out the show notes. There's lots of clickables on there that you'll be able to go out and see in different bits and pieces that we've been talking about on the podcast on this episode. And also, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you click that subscribe button. I've got wonderful conversations coming as part of the podcast, many and varied and all things in between. And I've just finished a trip down to Melbourne, and you are going to want to hear some of those conversations that I'm having as well. So stay tuned to the social media. Go out there and follow the Golfing Greenkeeper on Instagram, on Facebook. Follow myself, Steve Smith, on LinkedIn, and also on Twitter, or X as it's known, and stay across the socials, because I'll be releasing exactly where I'm going to and who I'll be chatting with and what episodes I'm coming out with. But the best way to stay up to speed is, of course, to subscribe to the podcast, whichever platform you're on. Spotify and Apple are the two major players, but I'm also on Podbean and Audible and Castbox. And there's a whole host of different platforms that you can find the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast on to make sure that you stay across it. So make sure you click subscribe, please. And thank you to everyone who's been messaging, been getting some wonderful messages, DMs, emails, all sorts of stuff. So you can email me at thegolfinggreenkeeper@gmail.com, or DM me on Facebook, on Instagram, and those platforms. Mention me in your comments and things, and we'll have a yarn, talk about all sorts of different things. And I appreciate the support out there from everyone who's been listening. More and more people are listening to these episodes, which is fantastic. And don't forget, we've got lots of other bits and pieces coming as well. Got a lot more happening, along with all of these wonderful interviews as part of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. And don't forget, of course, I've been working hard with Killara Golf Club for Aussie Golf History, which is coming out next. So make sure you're subscribed and you'll get notified when that one comes out, for all you history buffs and everyone interested in the history of a wonderful golf course of Australia. So Aussie Golf History is coming out next, and make sure you click that subscribe button. The Golfing Greenkeeper podcast continues to grow, and I thank you so much for your support and everything along the way. Thank you again to Ryan Stores at Royal Canberra Golf Club for this episode. As I always say, you hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.